Hello again. So on this video we will start drawing the outlines for this illustration. So first of all I'm going to go to File, Place, and I'm going to select the sketch that I previously did. I'm going to hit on Place and then click on the top left corner of the canvas. Now I'm going to double click on layer 1 and I'm going to mark it as a template. Then I'm going to rename that layer as Sketch. And I'm going to proceed to create a new layer that I'm going to call Outlines. So there we go, we're ready to start working and we're going to place our vectors on this outline layer. On this video we are going to use mostly the pen tool, the ellipse tool, and some lines. So let's begin with the work. First of all I'm going to select the fill here and I'm going to click on this little red slash here to deactivate it and leave only the stroke. So I'm going to go to the rectangle tool on the toolbar and click and hold until you get this menu, and then we're going to choose the ellipse. Now I'm going to stand here on the very center of the canvas. Now I'm going to press and hold Alt so the ellipse will come from the center outwards. And now I'm going to click and drag, and as a result I will have this ellipse shape that's fairly close to the one I drew on Adobe Photoshop. So it doesn't look quite the same, so I'm going to modify it so it looks even closer to my original idea. So I'm going to take the direct selection tool and I'm going to click and drag here around the middle of this ellipse, so these two anchor points are selected, and while having that selected I'm going to drag them down a little bit. So now we have this particular shape that it's not a perfect ellipse. So as you can see, this is much closer to what I had in mind while drawing the sketch. So I'm going to keep using the ellipse to create some other shapes that we have here. For example, the eyes. They are clearly a perfect circle. So I'm going to hold Shift and click and drag. And by holding Shift while using the ellipse tool, you get a perfect circle. So there we go. Now we'll do this little shape on the inside. So I'm going to stand here on the center of the eye and I'm going to click and drag to create an ellipse that resembles that shape. And as you can see, I have pointy ends on my drawing and I'd like to have them here as well. So I'm going to hit Shift C on the keyboard to bring up the anchor point tool. Then I'm going to just click on the top and bottom anchor points for that shape. And there we go, those are now pointy corners. Okay, so again I'm going to take the ellipse tool here and zoom in, and I'm going to stand in the middle of the head, and again I'm going to hold Alt so I can create an ellipse that goes from the center outwards, and I'm going to create an ellipse around here to create the mouth. So as you can see, this shape differs a lot from the one that we had on the original sketch, but we're about to modify it now. I'm going to take the direct selection tool, which is the white arrow, and we're going to click on this top anchor point and we are going to drag it down. And there we go, we now have a mouth that more or less resembles what we have drawn on the original sketch. Okay, so now I'm going to create another ellipse here for the tongue, and now I am going to create the dark part of the eye by creating another circle around here, and I'm going to do the chin for this character by just placing two ellipses next to each other. So I'll create the first one, then I'm going to take it, hold Alt, click and drag. So by holding Alt, when I release, I'm creating a copy. So there we go, we have the two ellipses that will later on form the chin for this character. Okay, now we are going to take care of the nose and we're going to do the same thing that we did for the other shapes. I'm going to stand in the center, hold Alt, click and drag and create the ellipse. Next, I'm going to take care of the nostrils, which will be ellipses as well. So I'm going to take the ellipse tool, I'm going to create an ellipse and I'm going to rotate it just a little bit. And I'm going to reposition it by using the arrow keys on my keyboard. So now I'm going to click and drag while holding Alt to create a duplicate. And now I'm going to right click, transform, reflect. Be sure that the axis is vertical and click OK. And there we go, we have now the two nostrils. So I duplicated the original and flipped it, so the angle is exactly the same on both. But of course, looking the other way. Okay, so far so good. Now there are a few more things that I'm going to create using the ellipse tool. For example, the feet. I'm going to stand here and create an ellipse, more or less like this. There we go. Then I'm going to take the direct selection tool, which is the white arrow, and I'm going to click on this anchor point and drag it to the left. This way I'm modifying this ellipse. So I have this particular shape that looks like a peanut, which is fairly close to what I have drawn on the original sketch. So I'm going to transform it to modify it even further. So okay, there we go. I'm happy with the result. I'm going to leave it as it is. So now I'm going to click and drag while holding Alt to create a duplicate, and then I'm going to right click, transform, reflect to flip it to the other side. Okay, perfect. So it's time to move on to our next tool, which will be the pen tool. We can select it over here on our toolbar or just hit P on the keyboard to bring it up. And I'm going to start drawing some shapes. For example, this one, which is the hair. So I'm going to place my first anchor point over here on the center of the entire illustration, which is the center of the canvas. Then I'm going to place another anchor point here and another one around here, approximately where this ellipse is. And I'm going to click and drag this time to create a curve. And now I'm going to hold Alt to move this handle independently from the other one, and I'm going to connect it with the first one. And I'm going to click and drag before I release to create a curve. Okay, now that I have this, I can use the direct selection tool, which is the white arrow, and by using that tool I can edit anything that I have done, for example the anchor points or the handles, so I can change any curve or any position with this tool. But this is not the case. I'm not going to edit this shape. I'm happy with the result. What I am going to do, however, is to create a copy and flip it to the other side by using the same method that we have used before. So this is completely symmetrical. Now I'm going to create the ear. I'm going to place my first anchor point here, then the second one here, and I'm going to click and drag before I release to create a curve. Then I'm going to hold Alt so I can turn this handle around and create a corner. And I'm going to place the next anchor point around here. Click and drag, and then I'm going to hold Alt again so I can move the handle, turn around, and then connect with the first one. So there we go, the shape is complete. And remember that by selecting the direct selection tool, which is the white arrow, we can click anywhere on any anchor point and fine-tune any of the handles or the curves of this shape. Now I'm going to, of course, copy and flip this shape to the other side. And I'm going to now fine-tune the position of the copy, having in mind that on the original, this point and this point are touching this line. So around here will do. Okay, now I am going to create the other shapes, the shapes for the body, the fangs, and so on. So first I am going to complete the face by drawing the fangs. Let's begin around here. Click here, click and drag, then hold Alt, turn around, create another point here, and then connect. And now I'm going to copy and reflect to the other side, as we've done before. Okay, so far so good. Okay, I'm going to move on to the body, so I'm going to place my first anchor point here, second one here. I'm going to create a very slight curve here, as I don't want this line to be too straight. Then I'm going to hold Alt, to turn around, and I'm going to place another point around here. Click and drag a little bit, hold Alt to make this turn. Then I'm going to place another point here on the center. I'm going to click and drag and then hold Alt and change the direction for this handle so it points up. And a cool trick that you can use is that if you also hold Shift, it will constrain the movement for this handle to an exact 90 degrees. So I'm going to do that, so this handle is pointing right up. Then I'm going to create another anchor point around here and connect it with the first one. So there we go, we have the first half of the body for this character here, and of course I'm going to create a copy and reflect it to create the other half. So as you can see, it's very easy to create shapes by using this process. Okay, there we go. This is looking quite good for now. So next I'm going to take care of the hand. So this is very simple and I'm going to do it in only one shape. I'm going to start, let's say here, and place my first anchor point, then the second one, click and drag to create a curve, then hold Alt. Now I'm going to click on this place to create another anchor point, then hold Alt again to change the direction of the handle and create a corner, and so on. You get the idea. This is what I'm going to do. Hold Alt, drag, click, hold Alt, drag, click, and so on. Even here, I want to create a slight bump on his hand, so I'm going to hold Alt and change the direction of the handle. Now I'll place another anchor point around here and connect it with the first one. So we have the hand for this character now, and I'm going to fine-tune some things that I want to change. For example, the length of the fingers. I want this finger to be bigger than the index finger. So you can easily modify the shape and the length of any of those fingers by using the direct selection tool and moving the anchor points around. You can even move the handles to change the curvature. Okay, let's create the shape for the wings now. I'm going to place my first anchor point here. Then the second one will be here. I'm going to click and drag. Now I'm going to hold Alt, move it here, and then click and drag. Hold Alt, move the handle, click and drag, and so on. And now we have reached a point where the wing goes behind the back of the character and we cannot see it. So I'm going to just place an anchor point around here, and the next one will be around here. And now I'm going to connect this anchor point to the first one, so I'm going to just click and drag until I have the curve that's similar to what I have drawn on my sketch. So there we go. Next I am going to duplicate this shape and reflect it to the other side, and I'm going to reposition this quickly. Okay, there we go. So we are almost done now. So I'm going to take the ellipse tool now and I'm going to start placing some of the details that I have missed. For example, the buttons on his shirt. Or for example, these blood stains that this character has next to his mouth. So in order to do this, a couple of circles will do for now. Okay, so next I'm going to take the selection tool and click and drag to select everything related to the eye. Click and drag while holding Alt to duplicate. Then right click, transform, reflect, and click OK. And we have created the other eye. Now we have to create the eyebrow, and I want to create this in a very particular way. So I'm going to take the circle for the eye and I'm going to go to Object, Path, Offset Path. So this window will pop up And I'm going to hit on preview, and I'm going to then enter a number here. About 30 pixels will do. So now we have this bigger circle that's completely aligned with the circle for the eye of the character. So next I'm going over here to the stroke panel, and I'm going to increase the weight of the stroke for this new circle that we have just created. So I'm going to increase it to, let's say, 20 points. Now I'm going to bring the scissors tool by hitting C on the keyboard, and I'm going to click to make a cut here and here. And then I'm going to hit delete to take away everything else. And what's left is the eyebrow of this character. So there we have it. So I've done it in this particular and complicated way, maybe because I wanted the eyebrow to be aligned to the eye. But if you prefer to just take the pen tool and go ahead and draw it more or less, you can do that too. So all that's left is to change this line to a round cap on the stroke panel. Okay, there we go. Of course, now I'm going to copy it to the other side and reflect it, as we did with all the other shapes. Okay, all done. Okay, there's one major thing that we need to do, and these are the arms and the legs. So we're going to take the pen tool again, and then we're going to zoom in a bit. So I'm going to draw the limbs as a single line. I'm going to place my first anchor point here, the second one will be here, and of course I'm going to click and drag before I release to create the curve. Okay, so as you can see we have a very thick line, 20 pixels wide, because that was the setting that we used last time. So this has been created with the same weight, and this is close to what I had in mind actually. I want to create the arms and the legs as very thick lines. So it's much easier this way, I don't have to do anything else, just a single line will do. So I'm going to make it even thicker. I'm going to go with 25 pixels. Okay, and there we go. It's really that simple. Since we're dealing with a cartoony character, we don't need anything else. So that's it for this video. I have created the outlines for this character, and on the next one we'll be adding color. So see you there.